Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to St. Peter's. Good morning. Okay. Welcome to St. Peter's University Hospital, this beautiful day in New Brunswick. We're here to celebrate really a couple of milestones. Certainly the anniversary, the 5th anniversary of Superstorm Sandy is coming up. And also here where you are sitting, you're sitting on the site and on the pad where we won't be able to sit here in the future, because this is the site of a resilient energy project. And we're also here to celebrate that today. We have Governor Christie is with us, and David Daly from PSE&G. I'm going to introduce them in a minute, but I would like to make just a couple of comments. This project is just the furtherance of our efforts here in partnership with the state of New Jersey and PSE&G to continue our efforts in alternative energy, this resilient energy project. And we are the first of its kind in the state, being funded by the Economic Development Authority through the Resilient Energy Bank, $7.5 million, and another $1 million from PSE&G, which really just adds to the legacy of the funding that PSE&G and the support that they have provided. Before I do introduce the governor and Mr. Daly, who's the president and CEO at PSE&G, I would just like to also say that just remember, St. Peter's has been serving this community for 110 years. We're in our 110th year. We are a Catholic hospital. We're one of 7 in the nation that is sponsored by a Roman Catholic diocese. We come under the Diocese of Metuchen, where our sponsorship comes from, led by James F. Cecchio, the Most Reverend Bishop of the Diocese of Metuchen. Bishop couldn't be here today, and to start our program, what I would like to do is read a letter from the Bishop to Governor Christie. So if I may, I will do so. Governor Christie, it is a real honor to welcome you to St. Peter's University Hospital, an important ministry of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Metuchen. I'm sorry that I cannot be here to greet you personally, but I've asked Les Hirsch, our interim CEO and president, to express my greetings and my gratitude for your presence this morning, and especially for your leadership in obtaining $8.5 million in funding from our Resilient Energy Project. 5 years ago, our state was severely impacted by Superstorm Sandy. In the immediate aftermath of that devastating storm, St. Peter's ability to provide quality health to those most in need was, along with that of so many other institutions throughout our state, threatened by widespread power outages. The funding you have made available has made it possible for us to improve our infrastructure, to ensure that we are now even more secure in our ability to provide excellent, Christ-centered health care for all who come to us, even in times of great difficulty. We are very grateful to have been able to work with your administration in bringing this endeavor, the first of its kind in New Jersey, to fulfillment. Additionally, Pope Francis has made protection of the environment a key theme of his papacy. In 2015 remarks, he highlighted the fact that all creation is entrusted to each and every human person to be used for the common good, when he reminded us that, in quotes, "We receive this world as an inheritance from the past generations, but also as a loan from future generations to whom we will have to return it," close quote. This grant and loan package enables us to pass on a cleaner world by enabling St. Peter's to generate its own electrical power so as to further reduce our carbon footprint. Governor, know that we welcome you most warmly. May our good Lord watch over and bless you, your family, and all of our citizens of the state of New Jersey. And it's signed, yours in Christ, Most Reverend James F. Cecchio, Bishop of Metuchen. Governor, thank you.
Thank you.
Before I do introduce David Daly, I would like to just recognize a couple of people that are here. First of all, some of our leaders here at St. Peter's. Our Board of Governors has 3 representatives today. Judith Caruso is here. Judy, thank you for being here. Sister Patricia Cody is here, and Dr. Gopal Desai, who's also president of our medical staff. Thank you all for being here, and a bit of warm welcome for some of our board members. And I also want to acknowledge Rick Morose, who is the chair of the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. Rick, thank you for being here today. and Melissa Orson, who's the CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Melissa, thank you, and thank you for your continued support. So let me introduce David Daly, who will then introduce the governor. David M. Daly was elected President and Chief Operating Officer of Public Service Electric and Gas Company effective October 2017. So that's pretty new. Congratulations. PSE&G is New Jersey's oldest and largest regulated gas and electric delivery utility, serving approximately 2.4 million customers, nearly 3/4 of the state's population. Mr. Daly is also the chairman of the board of PSE&G Long Island, a subsidiary of Public Services Enterprise Group, which has been managing the electric transmission and distribution systems on Long Island and in the Rockaways since January of 2014. PSE&G Long Island serves 1.1 million customers. Prior to becoming president of PSE&G, Mr. Daly was selected by PSE&G management to be the president of PSE&G Long Island, where he was able to increase customer satisfaction in just 4 short years. He has been with PSE&G for 34 years and has a long-time New Jersey, and we are happy to welcome him back to the Garden State. David, welcome to St. Peter's.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Les. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm pleased to be here with Governor Christie, BPU President Moroz, Melissa Orson, and Bruce Ciella of the Economic Development Authority, and of course our partners at St. Peter's to mark the 5-year anniversary of Superstorm Sandy. 5 years ago, Superstorm Sandy made her historic arrival in New Jersey, taking an enormous toll on families, cities, and communities like New Brunswick. Sandy was a new storm on a huge new scale. About 2 million of PSE&G's 2.2 million customers lost power. The damage to lives and livelihoods was enormous, and so was the damage done to infrastructure, including substations and switching stations that are depended upon by critical customers, such as St. Peter's University Hospital. 3 years ago, with the support of our partners in Trenton, the administration of Governor Christie, the State Board of Public Utilities, and President Moroz, not to mention hundreds of local officials, PSE&G launched a program called Energy Strong, which has fortified New Jersey's energy grid by making our electric and gas system more resilient to extreme weather. Under Energy Strong, PSE&G has raised nearly 24 substations and switching stations out of harm's way, so this critical equipment will not flood the next time we have a Sandy. An equally important part of Energy Strong was the installation of redundancies, a new technology designed to specifically reduce the number and duration of outages for 260 of our most critical customers, such as police and fire stations, wastewater facility treatment areas, and of course hospitals such as St. Peter's, where an uninterrupted source of power supply can be a matter of life and death. Today we are pleased to continue our partnership with St. Peter's on the development of a combined heat and power project that will support the hospital during emergency situations. This 2-megawatt, $8.4 million project will serve as a source of emergency generation for the hospital during extended power outages like those brought on by Sandy. The project's well underway and it's expected to be completed in 2018. A project like this cannot be successful without committed partners, starting with Governor Christie's strong commitment to New Jersey's recovery. His commitment to New Jersey and recovery from Sandy is well known. Our partnership with St. Peter's extends beyond storm protection. We've worked closely with the hospital on energy efficiency and solar projects that will save the hospital millions in energy costs as well. We're happy to be here today to celebrate just one of the success stories in the wake of that terrible storm 5 years ago. And we continue to be proud of the work that continues to ensure a complete recovery for the state. I want to thank the leadership of St. Peter's Hospital. We look forward to the next steps in this important relationship. And now it's my pleasure and my honor to introduce our Governor, Governor Chris Christie. Thank you very much, Governor, for all your leadership.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Les, thank you for having me back here to St. Peter's. Thank you for your leadership, David, and what you're going to be doing at PSE&G. Look forward to working with you as we move forward. I want to welcome President Moroz here as well from the BPU, and Melissa Orson, the CEO of the EDA. Lou Getting, a commissioner of the EDA, is here as well. This would not have occurred without the support of the EDA and the BPU, and of course Upendra Shivakula is here as well, another commissioner of the BPU. This is a joint effort. And why? Why are we so concerned about building combined heat power plants like this? I want to take you back 5 years and remember what things were like. Because luckily, as human beings, we have generally short memories. We put aside some of the painful things. But New Jersey has 94 wastewater treatment plants in 21 counties. And 5 years ago on Sunday, none of them were operational. 0. And so we were dumping untreated wastewater into our waterways all throughout New Jersey because we didn't have any backup for the power that went to those plants. Nearly a third of all the clean water systems in the state were down, and a large number of them had to go to boil water advisories just for folks if they were in their homes to be able to have usable water. Numerous hospitals were operating at a really diminished capacity because of the power outages and an inability to obtain fuel for their generators thereafter to make sure that they continue to go on. And that kind of lack of resource is, in each one of those instances, potentially life-threatening to our population. So in the aftermath of Sandy, we created the Energy Resilience Bank. This bank, which is administered by the EDA, is the very first of its kind in the nation, a public infrastructure bank that is focused purely on energy resilience. And today, being here at St. Peter's and commemorating the building of this new combined heat and power system, this will enable the hospital to continue to provide all of the critical life-saving services that they provide every day here in the event of another storm like Sandy, some other type of disaster or emergency situation that would affect the power grid. St. Peter's did suffer some direct physical damage from Sandy and had to enact emergency protective measures to protect the health and the safety of its patients and its employees, including creating temporary hookups to accommodate water delivery by tanker when the county water plant went offline. Those of you who are here, I'm sure, remember the joy of that. So the Energy Resiliency Bank in April of 2016 approved $7.4 million in funds from that bank, $4.4 million as a grant and $3 million as a loan. An additional $1 million was provided in the form of a loan from PSE&G, which will cover the cost, the $8.48 million cost to build this plant here. Now New Brunswick and surrounding communities will benefit from the uninterrupted care during power outages that St. Peter's can now operate independently of all the existing infrastructure and without disruption during any future power outages for any reason. Overall, this is a $200 million program that we put into place in the aftermath of Sandy through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And St. Peter's is just one of the recipients. We have 10 other projects across the state for hospitals in the very same way we're doing it for St. Peter's, and another group of projects that are in the pipeline now in development for an additional $73 million of funds, $127 million on the 10 projects that we've already allocated. What's this going to mean? In the end, what it's going to mean is that for all of us, we don't want to ever see another storm like Sandy again. The cost to us, both in terms of not only finances, but the personal losses of loss of life and loss of our memories, which so many people sustained, is something that we wouldn't want to go through again. But if we do, the key of recovery from Sandy was not just getting people back into their homes and their jobs, their private businesses, but it was to get them there in a better position than they had been before Sandy. Not the same, better. And all across the state, the Energy Strong program that Dave mentioned, incredibly important. And you see now that the kind of loss of substations and infrastructure from PSE&G that made them lose 90% of their customers would never happen again in a similar storm, given the elevation of those substations and the smart things that we did in rebuilding and repairing them, investing in that infrastructure. With these type of plants at our hospitals, we won't have to worry about New Jersey residents who are sick and suffering, not being able to get the care they need because we don't have the power. Because we're building these type of grids also at those wastewater treatment plants we discussed earlier in my remarks, we're not going to have to worry again. No governor will have to make the decision to dump untreated waste into our waterways again. It was one of the most painful decisions I had to make during the aftermath of Sandy, and no governor should be confronted with that again. And because of this Energy Resilience Bank and the partnership of the BPU and the EDA with our private sector partners, they won't have to make that decision again. Those are all things that are good things that have come out of this 5 years later. Remembering, too, that 85% now of this recovery is done. And in 5 years, that's pretty good stuff, given what happened in Louisiana, Mississippi, and even is happening in that quaint little suburb of ours in New York. They have not recovered nearly as much. 365,000 homes were damaged or destroyed on that one day. All but 1,200 families are now back in their home from 365,000. That's extraordinary effort in 5 years, and we should be proud of it. And that's only because of the effort of the great folks that we had as partners in the federal government to help us with disaster relief. My cabinet and staff, the governor's office of recovery and rebuilding, now being led by Dan Kelly, continues to work today on these issues. Local government, our private sector partners. But in the end, the indispensable part was the spirit of the people of this state. I remember landing in Belmar with my first visit after Sandy was over and it was safe for us to travel. And my helicopter landed where the boardwalk used to be. And I remember looking down and saying to the state police pilot, you know, where's the boardwalk? And he said, the boardwalk is completely gone. There was nothing there. We landed and I greeted Mayor Doherty first. And then a woman in her late 60s or early 70s came running towards me with a hooded sweatshirt on that said Belmar across her chest. And she grabbed me and hugged me, and she whispered in my ear, "Thank God you haven't forgotten us." It's hard to imagine that people would feel that way in the aftermath of a storm, that they were going to be forgotten in the most densely populated state in America, that somehow we would forget about Belmar or forget about Brigantine or forget about Little Ferry or Moonachie. But what I learned during that time was that people needed to be reassured. And that once they were reassured, then they were ready to fight. And those folks in Belmar and Spring Lake and Seagirt that had so much damage done, Bayhead, Maniloking, Toms River, they quickly turned from sorrow to that fighting, edgy New Jersey spirit that we all know makes us the most interesting people in America. And I think, and don't just take my word for it. I mean, seriously, think about all of the really large cultural shows on television over the course of the last 15 or 20 years. Some of them we've liked, some of them we haven't. But America is fascinated with New Jersey. They don't think they can quite figure us out. They're combined jealous and scared. It's good that they have a combination of envy and fear. And Sandy, and our recovery from Sandy, differentiated from all the other states who have had this type of awful disaster, we have recovered more quickly than any of them. And I'm not going to say that's because of the government. It's because of the people of this state who refuse to be defeated, who refuse to take no for an answer, who refuse ever, believe me, this I know, ever to be satisfied. Ever. They are never satisfied, and they never will be satisfied. And that's part of what makes us a great place. Because part of that leads to some negativity, for sure, at times, but also part of it leads to this state producing some of the greatest achievers our country and the world has ever known. And the things that you do here at St. Peter's every day proves that. The extraordinary men and women that you have working here, providing health care to the people of this region, have provided enormous relief for families in this area, great support for them, but also great hope. And whenever I think about St. Peter's Hospital, that is the word that I always think of, is hope. Things have not always been easy at St. Peter's. You're used to a struggle. You're used to a fight, whether it's fighting for the lives of your patients or fighting for your place your appropriate place in the healthcare system in this state. You've always been willing to fight. And as a result of your fight, you've given people hope. And that's an extraordinary gift. It's one of the greatest gifts that we as human beings can give to other human beings who are in desperation, is a sense of hope. That's what we did in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy by working together. We gave each other hope that tomorrow would be better, and I'm sure for me and for many of you in those days immediately afterwards, we wondered whether the state would ever get back to a new normal. But now, 5 years later, we realize that it has. And we have a beautiful day, cloudless day like today, knowing though that with God's particular sense of humor, Sunday is supposed to be pouring rain and 45-mile-an-hour winds for us to actually commemorate the 5-year anniversary of Sandy. I think that's only appropriate, that we should all be watching the rain come out of the sky and the winds blowing, but knowing that we are today much better prepared than we were 5 years ago. And that's why I'm here today, to mark this partnership with St. Peter's and PSE&G, and to thank all of you for your extraordinary work, not only over the last 5 years to recover from Sandy, but even more importantly, the extraordinary work that you do at this place each and every day for the people of our state who really, really need you. And so I want to thank Les very much for his leadership. You tell the bishop I'll write him a note too, and then you can read it to him. We'll complete the circle. I'll write the note, Les can read it to the bishop, it'll be great. Because if I actually show up in person with the bishop, I might be compelled to give my confession. And we're certainly not doing that till after January 16th. So I want to thank Les for his leadership, members of the board who are here, members of the medical staff, and members of my cabinet and leaders across government for committing themselves to not giving up and not giving in. And we have a lot to be thankful for 5 years after Sandy. And so thank you to all of you for coming today. Thank you for the great work that you do each and every day on behalf of the people of this state and for your service. And thank you for giving me the opportunity not only to be here today, but the opportunity that you've given me over the last 8 years to serve as your governor. For a guy born and raised in this state, there is no greater honor than to be the governor of the state where you were born and raised, and especially of this state. So thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it very much.
Good luck. Governor, thank you so much. And David, thank you. Thank all of you for coming today. That concludes our program. And Governor, thanks for just for all your kind words, and you know, we just congratulate you for your 8 years, and thank you for all of your leadership. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks again. Thanks for all your help again. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you guys.
Same here.
Look forward to working with you.
Thanks again, Bob. I'll start lighting. I know, but really, seriously. And I'll start lighting some stuff on you.
Good seeing you. Well, they stuck your sign up there.
Yeah. Harry wasn't here. That's right.